Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Nila Oktavia as the moderator from Group 2. We will explain about the continue material next week about common problem and result problem. The first material will presented by Husnathul Khulfah. Husnathul Khulfah, time is yours.
Okay, thanks to moderator. I explain about definition of research problems. According to Erwina 20 and 9, research problem are questions that research want to answer or problem that research want to solve. It is believed that the selection of a good research problem is the discovery itself. And next is the purpose of determining the problem. Determination of the problem or problem identification in a clear and simple manner aims to transform the topic into something that can be managed. The search for problems to be studied can be searched from reading, observation of fact in the field based on personal experience as well as from the result of scientific meetings such as seminar, discussion, and workshop, according to Nahar Mardiantoro 20 and 19. And research problem requirement, at least there are two prerequisites for the research problem. The first requires verification in the field. If the question uses the word whether, then this automatically has to answer, namely yes and no. So that field verification is no longer needed. And second, a research problem should be based on an observation, but in the field and in reading from previous research. So the conclusion, the state that is a problem has gone through a long process, saying that there are facts from the question. It has also been confirmed from previous research, according to WK 20 and 18. Okay, that's all from me. I give it back to moderator. Thank you.
Okay, thank you to Husnathul Khulfah. The next material will be explained by my friend Fikrah. To Fikrah, time is yours. I think Fikrah is not logged into this Zoom, so the next material will be explained by me. The next about identification of problems. According to Erwina 2009, identification of problems among others. The first is problem identification as part of research process can be can be understood as an attempt to define the problem and make the definition measurable as a first step in the research. The second is problem identification provide a platform for investigating various interventions and generating options in detective developed in the later step of the framework should address the issues identified here. The next is the problem identification process involved developing a clear and direct problem statement. Statement can be linked to the specific goals and objectives that have been identified. The next slide, please. According to Erwina 2009, when identifying problems, the following should be taken into account. The first is the problem prevents to the goal and objective identified in the previous step from being achieved. This should cover the various objectives identified in the previous step. The next is problem identification must take into account not only problems or challenges, but also constraints on the opportunities that prevent the achievement of the goal and objectives. The third is identification should be based on empirical observation, such as data and information obtained from survey results, interviews, and the study from various sources. The next is problem identification. Should produce a problem statement that describes the nature of the problem at hand. The next slide, please. The next, there are several things that must be done by a researcher in analyzing a problem situation. This is according Van der Laan, 1973, including accumulation of facts related to the problem, observing facts or relevance, to several the main difficulty, examine the relationship between the facts, explanation for the cause of difficulty, ensure the relevance of this explanation of the problem through observation and analysis. The next, exploring the relationship between explanation as well as the relationship to the facts, questioning the assumption underlying the problem analysis. The next slide, please. The next about scope of research problem. Okay, I think that's all from me. The next material will be explained by Zelina. To Zelina, time is yours.
Well, thanks to the moderator, I would like to explain about the scope of research problems. The scope of educational research is very broad because education itself is a field of study that is closely related to several other disciplines such as psychology, sociology, anthropology, politics, and economics. This is according to Fikrah 2018. There are so many educational concepts or theories that were developed by gaining inspiration or based on these various fields of science. Example in this case are the study of the concept of intelligence, human resource development, diffusions, authority, cost effectiveness, self-concept, and culture in educational practice in the field. Educational research was originally oriented to a behavioristic approach. This is evident from the influence of the discipline of psychology that is used to test the measurements of various aspects of teaching and learning. However, recently there seems to be the tendency for educational research to turn to other approach used in the social science. Approaches such as participatory observation in anthropology and economic analysis of education are some examples that show this trend. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, based on this, due to the wide scope of educational research, it's necessary to define the boundaries of the field to be studied. Research okay, the next slide, please. Okay, problem limitation is the scope of the problem or an attempt to limit the scope of the problem. This is too broad or wide so that the research can be more focused to be carried out. This is limitation aims to identify which factors are included in the scope of the research problem and which factors are not included in the scope of the research problem. The purpose of limiting the problem is due to limited research time provided by the sponsor or resources, as well as the limitation of the ability and research staff. Okay, that's all from me, and I give it back to the moderator.
Okay, thank you to Zelina. The next material will be explained by my friend Radila. To Radila, time is yours.
Okay, thanks to moderator. Next is how to narrow the research problem. First, researchers must narrow the problem in a research Second is identify phenomena that can be felt and appear in the field. Third, problems are exposed globally from the background. Four, reactions are made on variables that are suspected to have a strong influence on the achievement of research objective. Five, if the problem is formulated in the form of a question. Next slide, please. Next is the research problem formulation requirements. Generally, problem formulation must be carried out under the following conditions, according to Nazar 2003. First is problems are usually formulated in the form of a question. Second, the formulation should be clear and concise. Third, the formulation of the problem must contain the implication of the existence of data to solve the problem. Fourth is the problem of the problem contains the relationship of two or more variables for comparative and associative research. Next is the formulation of the problem is oriented to a particular theory. Next, the formulation of the problem must be the basis for making a hypothesis. And last, the problem should be the basis for the research title. So that's all from me. I give back to moderator.
Okay, thank you, Radila. The last material will be explained by my friend Fikrah. The Fikrah time is yours.
Okay, thanks to moderator. According to Zelina 2007, the criteria of problem formulation are three. The first is the problem should be formulated in the form of a question. So, two, the formulation should be concise and clear. Three, the formulation should provide clues about the possibility of collecting data in order to answer the questions contained in the formulation. Next. And the last is an example of a research problem formulation in the form of a question. The following is an example of research problem formulation in the form of a question according to Ansori M&C I 2009. 1. How does idealism affect commitment to the profession? 2. Is there a relationship between user participation and user satisfaction in the process of developing information systems? 3. Does the announcement of the right issues contain sufficient information to make the market react to the announcement? And the last, does security trading volume increase significantly when firm announce annual earnings? That's all from me. I give it back to moderator.
Okay, thank you to Fikrah. I think it is the explanation material from ask the question. Okay. Okay. Okay, this is explanation material about the common problem and result problem from group 2. If there is mistakes, I'm as moderator say sorry. That's all from group 2. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.